he talked a little bit about the show, House of Cards. Any of you watch it? Okay. So I'll tell you this real story about it, right? So before they're making the show, like a year before, my staff keeps coming and says, Kevin Spacey wants to come see you because he's got to play this character. I'm thinking, I'm not going to be portrayed very well. I don't need to do that, right? So they keep coming back, do you want to do it? I don't want to do it. So I said, all right, let's do it one day. And I set it up like right after last votes, and I'm going to have to go home. And they had told me that he was going to play Democrat. So I said, okay, I'll meet with him. That's all right, because it won't be me, right? So he comes in, and I really like Kevin Spacey. All right? So he comes in and sits down. We're not philosophically the same. But the thing I admired most about this guy, if he was making $100 a week, he'd still be an actor. He's doing what he loves, right? So he has all these ideas, you know, what Congress is like, and we're just talking, and I give a tour, and we talk for a long time. He said, well, what do you tell members? I said, I tell them, you vote your conscience, you vote your district, you just don't surprise them, right? So we ended up spending like 2 hours together, and then it was about a month later, he wants to know if he could come see me. I said, all right, I'll bring you to a whip meeting. And so he comes into the whip meeting and looks in, watches everybody, everyone's kind of wondering. And then I said, well, what do you got for dinner? You want to go to a Young Cooks dinner too? I'll take you to dinner. I said, we got to go vote first. So I take him back into the cloakroom. I said, wait here, I got to go vote. He goes, all right, but vote your conscience, vote your district. So I looked at him and said, are you going to use that? And he ends up using it in the show. So we become good friends. And truth be known, you know, we were on the floor the other day, and I was whipping some ones, and they all watched the show. And they were giving me a hard time, and I said, you know what, really? If this was like that show, and I just killed one member, how easy it would be to win. It'd be easy to go through the process. But, many, you know, I bike in the morning. The only time I don't bike is if you would bike. This is the day. It's a big deal if I give up biking in my office. I'm grouchy. But camp, ISA, a bunch of us go biking. So Kevin calls me one day and says, I want to go biking. All right. So he was biking with us the other day, seeing us. He stayed up with us pretty well. And then his detail there, and I won't give you what the new season he grows into a job. And his detail comes in the other day because they want to hang out with my detail, get some pointers. And he walks in, he goes, this looks just like the set. I said, I know, and I got no proceeds from all that. But he does things in the show that Whip never does. But they're all nice people. So let me give you quickly a little bit about policy in life, a little bit about the fun of the job, and what I see the perspective. Now, many of you read different things that are happening. You think this whole world is broken, right? You feel it? You see it? I'll tell you, inside baseball, I feel better about where we are today than any time 2 years ago. And this is why. And there's a couple lessons learned. We can always learn going in the process. We've been in the majority for a while, and we got in. If you take the first 3 months of this year, and if you take how we ended, Lamar will tell you, when we ended in the fiscal cliff, we were really broken. Regardless of how you felt about the outcome, internally the conference was broken. We're all mad at each other. We tried at the time of the election, and swearing in, we felt like he served a whole nother term. I mean, it was an interesting. I felt sorry for the freshmen coming in because we felt like it's like you're moving mid-year into the school year. We were already there. We were already frustrated. We were already fighting. But when we went away on a retreat, I really think we united. And the thing that united us was looking at the schedule and putting some thought into it. Because we knew the next 3 months we had a sequester, a debt ceiling, and a CR. But we also knew the sequester was going to hit at the same time as the debt ceiling. We thought we're going to walk into one more trap, which is going to be about taxes. How can we get out of it? Our only way to get out of it was to actually change the scheduling of what was there, change the sequence. So we're going to have to move the debt ceiling. You all know the vote for the debt ceiling is very tough when you know one side's going to have to carry the weight, and it's just Republicans. We got together, we said, well, why don't we move the debt ceiling for no budget, no pay? Well, Mike's been in our caucus, you know. Members don't. Just for that, why would you do that? Because it was part of an overall strategy. Why don't we force the Senate finally to do a budget We were frustrated with the last 2 years. All these bills we passed, Keystone, medical device tax, they just sit there and they never get to see the light of day, and we get blamed somehow. We produce product and the Senate does nothing, we get blamed. The Senate never did a budget. And did you realize last time the Senate did a budget, the iPad wasn't introduced? That's how long it's been. The world changes rapidly, and they have not done it. So we moved it for that purpose, thinking it would be, we wouldn't want to be a jerk on it. Let's not move it to April 15th, let's move it sometime in May. But when we did it, the Senate didn't do a budget, right? They did have to have voter on it. We do know that 17 Democrats will support Keystone. We do know we get 72 votes on medical device tax. You know what? If you have the light of day, transparency actually works in the process. So by changing that, sequester is not what we requested. This was the president's idea. And I think the most ironic thing is the president releasing his veto threat over us crafting a PROPS bill to what the law says the number is. What's amazing to me is this guy signs a law, a BCA, that says what the numbers be, and now he's going to threaten a veto if you pass it and abide by the law. It's just so ironic. So, then we go into sequester, and now we're coming down, all within the same month, the CR. Now, if there's any time for government to shut down, it's really going to be in the CR. So what did the House do? We passed, and we didn't get crazy, right? So Reed comes to us and says, just make it very clean. And Reed's idea is why very clean. He doesn't want to make it confusing, but he also wants to leverage sequester to make it tougher on the military. Well, we say, from my perspective, I say, no, I'm not going to pass something clean. I want to add something to it. So what do the PROPS do? They do MilCon VA, give a little more flexibility to the military. We ship it over. Why did we pick those two? Because those have been conference, which in the big picture of life is nothing, but in the small world here, that hasn't happened in years. Right? So we send that to the Senate, knowing that the Senate can add something to it. Now here's the play, and here's why you look at the world's being better. The Senate gets pressured by the president to add Obamacare stuff, make it political. Let's make everything a political fight. They do not go there. They go add other approach bills that have all been conference. Send it back, we fund government to the end of the year. No debt clock on TV, no big fanfare, but lessons learned in the process. And what are those modeling? The House has to go first. We're not crazy, but we put our philosophical bent on it. We know that we give leeway, that the Senate can add things that they want, but it's going to all be conference, so it's going to be worked out, so both are going to have a say, and you're going to ignore the basic. That will work out. Look, I believe we're going to get immigration reform. Why? Because it's going to meet much of that criteria. Everybody's ignoring the president, and we're actually working out ourselves. Now, if there's anything to learn from it, if you give us the ability to legislate, we will do it. We don't run do nothing. We want to legislate. And what is it? The senators want to legislate too. But you put everything else in the mix, it'll break. I'm a firm believer we're going to get tax reform. You may all laugh at me and all think that, but when you sit down and listen to members, it's the one thing they get excited about. When you read, I don't assume any of you read the LA Times, right? But they have a story out today. UCLA has the Anderson School of Business, and their forecast is actually very good. You know what the UCLA forecast comes out today? It's not a recovery. It's not even normal growth. It's bad. The problem is this new norm. Normally when you go down in a recession, you bounce back up. No, we're still right here. The other challenge we have coming right now, which is ironic to me about this president, the Democrats enhance the challenge and the problem when it comes to student loans. And when you want to look at debt and others, the combination of student loan is almost the debt of $1 trillion. What's it backed by? All right? When we did Obamacare, they wiped out all private sector student loans. When they took the majority, they did their 6 and 06, we warned them of the problem. So now here it comes one more time to double what the House did. The House didn't sit back, we acted. We tied it to a 10-year treasury. Why? Because the average student loan pays off. It's actually in the president's budget. Then he comes out and criticizes. They continue to create a problem, but when we go to try to solve it, they don't look. He'll try to pick a fight with this, but here we are, not waiting to the end of the day. And this is a frustration that I have. I've come to the belief that no person should be president without being the governor first. No, it's true, right? What does a governor do? They pick a cabinet. They can't print more money. They have to carry out agencies they didn't create in their own mind, and they have to focus on what they're doing, right? They have to make a decision on a bill at the end of the day, and they got to put people together. It is the best form of training ground. And no disrespect for the current president, but I would tell you, I'm a firm believer in divided government, we achieve big things. Reagan, and Tippendale, and Rostenkowski. And Ways and Means had all the power, right? And what they do, they reform the tax code. I'll tell you this little story. Now, I see tech people here. I'm a big believer in tech. I do all my own social media, so when you read it. And my daughter teaches me Instagram, okay? And this is before the last election. And this article comes out and it rates the 5 best politicians on Instagram. And it rates me number 1, right? But I only have 65 followers. You know who's number 2? The president. He has more than 1 million. And they're pictured on the pictures. I think, I gotta pick my game up here, right? So it goes to the inaugural. Yes, it's not who I voted for, but I celebrate our Constitution. I go to the inaugural. And you know what? I get kind of excited, right? Because I'm the whip, Eric and John, they gotta go down to the White House. I get to be the first member to walk out. And I get to sit with the Supreme Court. Now look, being a kid from Bakersfield, the only time I see a judge is when I stand before them. So I'm in the 3rd row, and they have all the Supreme Court in front of me. And I'm wondering, these people with rows, you got Scalia, you got Thomas right in front of me. I'm thinking, what do they say to one another? You know, it's profound stuff. Ginsburg, she reaches over, she says something to Thomas right at the very beginning. So I'm just going to listen, right? So I'm thinking, what is this? So she leans in and she says, doesn't Michelle's haircut look so nice? So I pull out my iPhone. I think this is a great place to take pictures. I'll keep the president one more time. So I'm snapping some photos at that time. And, kid from Bakersfield, if you invite me somewhere, I assume you're not inviting me back, so I steal anything possible. So we get to the end of it. You know, they give you blankets. And I have Justice Kagan. She's now my new email friend. And she's sitting there, and I say, are you going to take your blanket? She says, no. I said, I got 2 kids. Yours is mine, right? So I pick that up, and then I go and I take all the nameplates. I pull some I did. Maybe my grandchildren sell them on pawn shop one day. And I look over, and there's the chair of the president, and he has a glass of water, and he has the presidential seal on top of it. That's mine. I walk over, and I set that all in the chair. I put it in my pocket. Details embarrassed, they're standing by me. But I'm right out by the podium, right? And everybody else is beginning to walk up and walk out. And here comes Paul walking up, right? Perfect photo. Well, Paul and I are very close. I told Paul, stop. He goes, what? I go, stop. I want to take your picture. He goes, why do you want to take my picture? Because Beyonce's coming. And had you won, she wouldn't be here, all right? So, so she stops, and I ask her, and I take this picture, you know, and Walden and Upton photobomb it. And I'm going to be honest, I'm a big Beyonce fan, right? And I'm standing out by the podium thinking, this is my moment. So I go to Beyonce and said, would you like your picture out here? Because there's all the crowd. When do you get to stand right there? You know? And she looks at Jay-Z like, can I go out there? I said, oh, I've got the power. So she comes out, she stands by the podium, and I take this picture. Now, to be honest with you, I'm thinking, she's got to give me her email address. I never got the email. But taking this picture, unbeknownst to me, I'm on TV. All right? They think it's a big deal that the Republican whip would have an iPhone, I think, for one, but would make a picture of Beyonce. So when I go back and later, I go from 65 followers to 5,000 followers to 11,000 followers. Now I tell you that story because I can still communicate to 65 people about the pure things I all believe in. Or I could reach people that never thought about politics, talk to them about war if I add a little human nature to it. And that's something we should all learn as we progress, right? It's what people think we are and what we really are. So anyways, I go back in my office, I put all this stuff down, right? And then you go to Statuary Hall, that luncheon. I'm only invited because I'm a member, otherwise. And you walk in, you think, am I really supposed to be here? Right? So we go in, I'm trying to find my table. I didn't check ahead of time. And my table's right up front, the head table, and I'm right here, right? So I look over, you're looking at the nameplate, and there's Harry Reid and his wife, Chief Justice Roberts and his wife, Michelle's mother, Lou and his wife, Judy and I, and Bill and Hillary Clinton. Outnumbered, but nice table. So I sit down. You know what Bill Clinton says to me? He goes, I'm really impressed you started your first business when you're 19 years old. I said, oh, thank you. We start talking some more. Billy talks about everything. Then he looks at me and goes, community college, wasn't that your first elected office? I said, well, yeah, it was. He said, if we ran government, he puts his hands together, the way we run community college, wouldn't we be a lot better off? I said, well, yes, we would. And I'm thinking in my mind, the former president of the United States took more time to figure out who he was sitting next to, who was his background, just to impress me, and it was freaking working on me. Right? So just then, right, Obama was working the tables, and he was kind of getting my R's, but then he had to go sit down. Right? So I go to Bill, I said, he skipped our table. You think that was because of you or me? So I go to Bill Clinton, I said, can I tell you a little secret? I said, I want to tell you the advice I gave to the White House during the fiscal climate. He said, as we were building up to it, I said, this one night, the CEO of GE, he had this little dinner. And he invited some members of Congress and Senate and others. Backus was there for the Senate, I was the House, Berlin was the White House. We had different tables, and we were talking like, what would it take to get to an agreement? And I'm sitting there, and I listen to Backus bring up fights back with Bill Thomas. I wasn't even here, I don't know what it is, right? Jeez. And we were all going around pontificating. It got to the end of the night, and you can kind of give one piece of advice to everyone. I said, well, my advice is to the White House. I said, every night, don't tell me, and don't tell the press, but have Obama call Bill Clinton for 30 minutes. And they said, well, why would we do that? I said, well, Ronald Reagan's dead, but Bill Clinton's still alive. I said, because Bill Clinton came to an agreement with Newt Gingrich, his arch enemy. And he came to that agreement on welfare reform, which his base told him not to touch. And by doing so, it's one of the apparatuses where they actually balanced the budget, and they had more money, and they had a much more successful presidency because of it. And Bill Clinton, because of that, goes, oh, no, you didn't. Then he didn't say, would you tell that to? Now, I tell you that story for a reason. I do believe divided government can still achieve things. I'm not one who says you wait for the next election. I do believe, though, dealing with the White House, having not been a governor before, having been that state senator and U.S. senator, you get too much into the mindset of just politics. That one side has to win and one side has to lose. And it came very apparent to me. The president came to speak to us, and I get in trouble every time I make a quote about sometimes when the president yells at me. I'll do it again. He comes to us in our conference. Lamar said this. And I was excited he came to the conference. This is good. We should do it more often. But the things that I walked away with, and all the things we talked about, he started off the conversation with, I want to work, which I thought was awesome. He said, but it's not going to be easy. Because you promised your voters things, and I promised my voters things. And I paused for a moment and said, I thought we were just all Americans. Talk about what you want to do. And then there was one other question where Candace Miller asked him about, it just got cut off the White House tours. Well, he first blamed Secret Service and everything. Oh. But then he went through and he explained more how much he liked the White House tours. And he used this phrase, he goes, I like them so much. I go down there so people can see me. I just thought from a perspective, we need to take a different look and approach how to do these things. And I believe, because the debt ceiling is moved back, and we're going to do we're in our first week here, but we're gonna do 4 weeks, 1 week break, and 4 more weeks. That 8-week window between right now can be one of our most productive. It can be focused legislative. You know what? There's a couple things that I recently read about. I don't know if you read the story in the Wall Street Journal. The lows of entrepreneurship in America. We're not going to get out of this mess unless we have people that want to take risks. I couldn't go create my deli today. Most Americans don't want to try. Why? And when you really look at where we're at, there's more cash on hand than at any time in America's history. You're holding it because of uncertainty. Uncertain about what your healthcare costs are going to be, uncertainty about what regulatory is going to be. We can eliminate those. And if we eliminate those, we'll have the biggest stimulus with not $1 ever being borrowed from government. We have a unique opportunity. We have the ability by 2020 to be energy independent. I want to know what government doing. We are improving. If you watch what transpired in OPEC last week, they're worried about what's happening in America. Saudi wants to keep pumping, the others want to stop, make the price higher. Saudi says no, but you know what Saudi's worry is? If America gets to where they are, would they even care about our region? The world will look much different. You're going to find a series of legislation we do with energy policy. You're going to find us moving forward on tax reform. You're going to find us dealing with the farm bill, with immigration. Now, I'll tell you this. If you look at Congress and you want to judge us based upon the past Congresses, you cannot. If you want to equate it, if you try to move a free trade bill in the past Congresses, Mike and everybody else did, they had to have a little vote open for a long time, they got to work forever. We passed 3 free trade bills in 1 day, and we didn't need 1 Democrat vote to make it pass. That would have been unbelievable in the past. Will you try to pass a farm bill? Half of my conference has been here less than 4 years. 60% of the entire Congress has been less than 8 years. So bills are supposed to come up every 5 years. Don't think it's routine. So what you have to do, you have to walk through listening sessions so people understand the issue. But I feel from a couple different perspectives that we're in a stronger position, our window is right, and the opportunity is there. Now, there are a lot of scandals out there. Having the scandals, from my perspective, is not about a scandal. It's about the idea of trust in government. There's one thing that this country has continued to fall and fall. We don't even trust who we bank with. You know what? Do you know who your neighbors are? In the old days, you'd all know who your neighbors are because you'd be out there playing with them every day. It goes to the core of America. Can we trust individuals? And I think if you haven't watched Mike Kelly questioning IRS, this guy is fantastic because he's not scripted. It's directly from the heart. And if there's an opportunity as all Americans to bring greater transparency, but to build a trust level, to stand up and say, yeah, this was wrong and this is what we corrected. And I think the way Ways and Means and others are going, it's not a partisan way, and it shouldn't be. But we shouldn't put this under the rug. We need to make sure we correct this once and for all. And we're not doing it by any political basis. Just drive with the information and click it and make it correct. I think from those different perspectives, you got a unique opportunity to make the next century the American century one more time. Thank you very much.